So I wanted to talk a little bit about sharing about mental health on YouTube. I've always been afraid about the stigma attached to mental health. It can be difficult when you're going through mental illnesses to feel different from everybody else and isolated from society, especially back when the stigma was worse. But there's been a lot of movement in society towards more acceptance, and I think an important part of that is people sharing their experiences. So that gives me motivation to add my voice to that. I have experience with a lot of different issues that I think others could relate to. So I have a lot of thoughts about how all of these sorts of disorders are very interrelated and connected. A lot of these different disorders form in a brain that is being traumatized throughout childhood as a response to prolonged trauma and a way to cope with it. And then these disorders become more problematic later in life when you're an adult trying to just function in society. A stable, normal life can be very hard to even imagine if you've been through a lot in childhood. So I really want to talk about the ways that I've been able to find recovery from different issues, because I want to help others going through the same thing, give them hope that it's possible, and also give concrete tips on how. I deal with a host of issues, a conglomerate of disorders that are all kind of interrelated, but also different. They have different symptoms. A lot of it stems from CPTSD. I have CPTSD from experiences just all throughout my life that is different from simple PTSD in that it involves childhood trauma and usually involves primary caregivers, and shapes how you see and exist in the world because of the longevity of it and the fact that it starts young. And then also just depression, anxiety, OCD, eating disorders in the past. I'm recovered from the eating disorders now. Depression and anxiety, I've dealt with those pretty much my whole life. Mine comes a lot from abandonment trauma. It's very linked in with the CPTSD. And it also comes from when you've gone through so much when you're a young kid that makes you feel hopeless about life. A hopeless mindset that gets wired into your brain as the norm for how you view the world. You just tend to view the world in a more hopeless way. That's a big part of depression, and then a big part of learning to recover from it is learning how to feel hope again. And anxiety, there's generalized anxiety disorder, which is the anxiety has become generally applied to, just different life experiences. It can be just fear of people, fear of different situations. I've dealt with agoraphobia in the past, so that's the fear of going outside, fear of leaving the house. And then anxiety, like social anxiety, CPTSD and trauma can make you kind of just scared of people, if people have been the sources of trauma in the past. A lot of recovering from that has been having new, good, healthy experiences with people that show you that that's not always the way you have to regard others. You don't always have to be afraid of them hurting you, and learning how to more effectively maintain my boundaries so I can be an advocate for myself. Anxiety, it's something that can be really hard to deal with because it gets very wired into your nervous system. So I've found a lot of progress in learning how to get my nervous system more balanced. I used to deal with panic attacks, and now I don't almost ever. Maybe in the worst flashbacks I'll have some still, but in general I don't have panic disorder where I'm just having them randomly anymore. So if you deal with that, know that you're not alone, and also know that it can get better. And TRM, trauma resiliency model, that's very helpful in getting your nervous system more balanced. If it's imbalanced towards the fight or flight mode, the trauma activation that can happen after trauma, and then learning how to activate your parasympathetic nervous system can really help you get out of that stuck trauma mindset and learn how to calm your body and not deal with so much anxiety on a daily basis. I plan on sharing a lot more about the dissociation in later videos. I actually have dissociative identity disorder. It involves depersonalization and derealization, but also alterations in sense of self, alterations in consciousness, amnesia, changes in self states. And that's something I've dealt with my whole life that forms before ages about 6 usually, up to age 9 to count for individuals with developmental delays. The personality is formed altogether into a singular personality. So if you go through prolonged trauma before that, it can cause the personality states to remain disintegrated. That is a coping skill that the mind uses to deal with trauma. And also my presentation of dissociative identity disorder is very different from some of the mass media presentations of it. It's very covert, it's very hard to spot. Psychosis, and that involves hallucinations, delusions, and disorganized thoughts. You'll notice the disorganized thoughts in my videos. I'm going to try to keep the editing minimal because I want others dealing with similar things to be able to find someone else similar to them. I've dealt with that my entire life, as long as I can remember. Ever since I was 3, I can remember having hallucinations and delusions. A lot of my delusions are paranoid. Hallucinations, visual, I see things, I hear things, so auditory, even tactile, olfactory, smell, touch. Pretty much any senses, you can have hallucinations. I'm pretty good at reality testing, so sometimes I'm able to tell that I'm hallucinating and sometimes I'm not. I guess that's it for now. I hope that it will be helpful to other people that can relate, so thank you and have a good day.